Hi everyone. So as you already seen the thumbnail, you got an idea like what we're going to talk about in this video. So basically, in 2025, resumes are getting faded somehow because people are getting hired from their GitHub profiles, from their LinkedIn, from their Twitter, and from various projects they're building and showcasing. But resumes are still in picture. Companies are still asking for a resume when they are asking for a profile. Okay. So there are some tips and tricks and techniques I've been using from the past 3 years when I was preparing for my first switch and till now as well, which helped me really a lot while getting replies from the companies. So, first of all, I'll talk about my resume and then I'll share you some tips what you can do in your resume and what you should do while applying. Okay, so let's talk about my part. So, this is the resume which I've used while preparing for my switch, and this is the same resume which got me into interviews into these many companies. This is the list of complete companies which I've interviewed at using this resume. Now, let's come to the point. First of all, if you're a fresher, no need to hurry in terms of adding everything in your resume. For example, I've seen a lot of freshers adding GDSC Developers Club Committee member as an achievement in their resume. If you're hiring for a technical role, do you really hire a person who is adding these things in your resume? No, right? So don't try to add some kind of jargons in your resume which can alter your performance or your as at least your resume screening, right? So don't need to add any kind of jargons. For example, you played badminton in something and you got something. Okay, it's fine. I'm really appreciating that, but don't need to add in these resume wala part because you're applying for a technical role, right? You're not applying for a managerial role or something because it can shows your leadership, but right now you're not applying for a leadership role. So always refrain yourself from adding these kind of details in your resume, which are not basically aligning with your job description. First of all, okay. Now, if you're a fresher, always make sure to add three sections in your resume at least. First of all, your experience. If you're not having experience, that means if you're not working in any company, you can add your projects. If you're a fresher, make sure to have at least two projects and add your pointer based things. For example, at least one project have three pointers. Okay, these are the things which I made. For example, I made something. This is the project. These are the things which I made. That means the reason why I made it and how it impacted people. So impact in terms of freshers is really important because if we are hiring someone in my company as well, we always look for what you have built and what impact it made to the people. So this is something which freshers can think of while adding your projects. Now, first section is done. Now come to the second section. In the second section, you can add one thing which is your achievements. Your achievements can be anything. It can be some kind of contest which you have worked in. It kind of a streak which you have made, for example, 100-day streak on coding. It can be uh, it can be your college performance as well. For example, scored 9.8 CGPA in the first semester and got the gold medal, for example, any kind of thing. So academic achievements and your programming achievements can be a part of this section, but no need to include your GDSC or part of thing or any kind of thing. Now, the last part which comes as skills. In the terms of skill, I've seen most of the fresher use a lot of things. For example, AI, ML, AWS, Lambda. Dude, Lambda. You're adding Lambda in your resume. So no need to add any jargon words in your resume. Always make sure to use few or like 4 or 5 skills if you're comfortable with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, Angular, and always make sure to add only those languages. If I ask few questions on that language, you would be able to answer that. Okay. So the fresher parts, it's completed. Only one resume you can require, and this is the epic thing which you can do. You can copy this format. I will share this format in the description and you can use the same as well. Now, let's come to the fresher, non-fresher part. That means if you're already working in some company and you're trying for a switch. So, first of all, if you're not a fresher, if you're an experienced person, always make sure to have at least three resume in your pocket every time. One is front-end specific, second is back-end specific, and the third is full stack. Because from my experience, I was working in front end for the past 2.5 years, but when I made the switch, it was a full stack role. The first switch was a backend role, and the second switch was a full stack role. So I always keep handy of these three resume. Okay, if somebody asks me any resume on a WhatsApp chat as well, I would be able to share them. It's a backend resume, front end, or a full stack role. I'm having the all the things contained in the resume already in hand. Now, why you need that? So the thing is, you can't showcase every skill in a single page. It's true. And if it is happening, you need to be prepared on the basis of the job description. For example, if I'm seeing an application for a front end role, I will not be using my back end profile resume, right? Because it won't even show any front end achievements, right? It won't even show any trace of front end I've worked with. So if this is happening and if you're seeing this, always try to make sure create three resumes which is specific to your tech stack. Now let's come to the part of what are the things which you should add as experienced person. So three sections once again. First section is experience. Whatever companies you have worked with, always make sure to add experience in terms of pointers. Okay, key, this is something which I have built, this is something which I have completed, and this is something which is impacted. Always make sure to add some kind of numbers, some kind of features, some kind of skills, and use bold keywords for using those uh, projects. For example, if you have worked in split payments or if you worked in Amazon, so if some feature you have worked in Amazon, so always make sure to highlight that feature. For example, if I'm gonna read your resume, I'm gonna ask that question, okay, what is this? So you can explain that project into 2-3 minutes of conversation, right? So use this to basically to lead your interview. Okay. Now the second part, basically, if you're not a fresher, your experience, if you're experienced people, experienced person, your experience part hold a majority of your resume. For example, 40% of your resume has already been covered, right? Now you can add a section of projects which you built in college side. You don't need to add every project. You can just add a single project which you have made, and it can ask, like, it can get you some kind of questions which like why you have chosen this. If you're not familiar with the project, please try to make sure ki before going to interview, you can have this resume already read it. For example, if you're going through a resume, always try to make sure ki asking questions like you are an interviewer. Okay. So now let's come to the other part, that the third pointer. Now the first two sessions are completed, which is experienced and your achievements and your basically projects. Now let's come to the third part, which is skills. Skills is one of the most important part if you're a professional, if you're an experienced person, because this basically indicates, this basically add your value, add some kind of like weight onto your resume. Here you can mention only those skills which are specified to your job description. If your job description says Flutter and you know Flutter, add Flutter. Add Flutter some framework as well on terms of Flutter. If you don't know this, Google it, search it, find it and add it, because this gonna affect your resume ATS screening, right? So try to make sure to add the words as per your job description before applying. Now, now let's come to the most common mistakes which people do and they should not. Don't try to add multiple page of resume, because this can lead a lot of chaos while it is screen. Because in my company also, if I'm seeing 100 of resume and if I'm seeing okay, three of the resumes are of 2-3 pages, I'm gonna like reject them already, because I have no time to go through a 3-page resume, right? So always try to make sure to have single page of resume. Now the second point, which is don't try to add any kind of random experience, any kind of non-technical experience while you're applying for a technical job. The third point is always try to make sure to highlight your tech stack which you have chosen in terms of your company as well, in terms of your project as well, because this basically highlights what you have chosen, and this can bring up a lot of questions in interviews. Ki if you have chosen Angular, why you haven't chosen Vue, right? So these kind of questions can come up, and this is how you can lead your interviews, right? The fourth point, key, always make sure before applying your resume ATS score should be 80 plus. There is no need to just directly apply. Take some time, go to Google, search something, find a ATS checker website, upload a resume, check your score, and then alter your things, right? Because ATS screening is something which is the first step which is happening in every company, right? So try to make sure to have at least 80 plus of ATS score. And these are the just few things which I did, which helped me uh, really a lot in terms of switching, in terms of getting interviews in a lot of companies. So this is something which I would recommend to all of you, and you can check out my resume in the description, and you can post your doubts in the comment section, or you can personally DM me over LinkedIn or Instagram, any platform. I am happy to help. Bye bye.